Hey everyone, Cool Kid here, and welcome back to Accolade Acquisitions, a supplementary series I'm doing showing how to get each Accolade glyph against the Fragmented One. In each little run of these series that I've done, we always have a warframe who's kind of our baseline in terms of showing off a lot of the strategies that I talk about in the main video, and for this series that's going to be Vauban. Vauban is not bad in this fight. In fact, I would argue none of the Accolade frames are bad in this fight, unlike a few of the other Accolade glyphs where I think there's a very obvious weak link in the lineup, but compared to the other frames, I do think he struggles the most. So we're going to show off some of the cheesier strategies, I guess, as well as primarily focusing on the Burst On as our damage option, because I mentioned it by name in the main video. So, when it comes to the setup for Vauban, this is kind of just like a modified version of what I normally use. Corrosive Projection can be swapped out for whatever you want. I normally use this in combination with the 4, just to help with armor reduction, but you can swap it around if you'd like. So, main things to go over here, we have the shield recharge trio, right, of Fast Deflection, Vigilante Vigor, and Catalyzing Shields. And then we have some strength, efficiency, a solid amount of range, and then, duration and energy maximum. All of this is honestly very generic. The reason that I'm still investing decently high into range is, while Vauban doesn't have a ton of direct tools that work well against the boss, he has plenty of tools that work very well against the boss's minions, especially when the Fragmented Tide shows up. He's very good for keeping them at bay so that they don't overwhelm him. So I still want a decent amount of range for Vortex and the like, and then Photon Strike is very good for clearing them out. Honestly, them buffing this with Vauban's mini rework to inflict a blast proc was phenomenal. And then I also have on Arcane Arachne, because it actually does boost the damage of Flechette Orbs. So, depending on the arena, wall latching can be kind of difficult, especially in the pit, it's pretty awkward. But if you can get it, this can also help dealing with the minions. We also have Vector Overdrive, which is helpful for getting a damage bonus. That's kind of like our main tool against the boss directly. And to that end, if you wanted, you could drop the range and invest more in strength or something like that if you want to focus on that aspect. And then I have on Energize just because the Eximus units drop energy orbs super frequently, so it's a good way to keep my energy topped up. So, for our Burst On, this is going to be a little different than how I've done it in a lot of the other Accolade videos. We have on a lot of base damage, just to make sure that I don't have to deal with, hitting the boss with an attack that does basically nothing. We've got crit, we have multi-shot, and then our main element we're working with is heat. I'm going to just make these a little closer. So, heat has a very unique advantage in this boss fight. Because the Fragmented One is the only boss of the super boss lineup without status reduction, and heat has its consolidation mechanic where it resets the duration of all existing heat procs when you inflict a new one, you're able to just kind of keep the heat scaling basically forever. The boss does status cleanse itself between phase 1 and 2, as far as I've noticed. It might be a burrow behavior, I'm not 100% sure, but this still lets you build up 1,000 heat procs, which will chunk the boss a lot. And then Deadhead, not only does this give you the additional damage, but also the headshot multiplier applies to the boss's weak spots. So this is going to be my main damage weapon against the boss, but that doesn't mean it's the only thing worth considering here. So Cycron is going to be my main ad control weapon if I get overwhelmed by enemies. We have, it's pretty standard, right? We've got crit, we have Lethal Torrent and Galvanized Diffusion for multi-shot, we have Magnetic Might and Viral as well, and then we also have a Galvanized Shot. Now, to be perfectly honest, looking at a setup like this, and in fact, I think I'll just go ahead and swap it over now just for the sake of argument, you can also go ahead and invest in Primed Heated Charge. You can use this for heat inherit and stuff, considering that this will be such a huge bonus. If you wanted to go into that route of fully investing into the sort of the heat inherit angle of things, you can. And then we also have on Cascadia Flare, just to give my Cycron a very independent way of generating its base damage that doesn't rely on kills. Honestly, this fight is probably the least damaged by the reliance on kills of things like Galvanized Shot, but if you wanted, you could take Galvanized Shot, and then you could also take, Fortifier. This is very good in this boss fight for scooping up Overguard off of the Eximus and stuff like that. This is just going to be what I'm going to work with. And then our last option here is Magistar. So in the tank accolades, I actually used Sancti Magistar. But someone asked if the regular Magistar would be better because it had higher bonuses in certain categories, and after mathing things out, I'm reasonably certain that the regular Magistar actually is better when it comes to slam damage. Obviously, the Sancti Magistar has the benefit of healing you in its incarnate form on hit, so there is an argument to be made either way, but for this series I'm going to be relying on regular Magistar. This is a pretty generic slam build. We have base damage, crit stats, we have Galvanized Reflex for the combo count, Seismic Wave for the slam damage, and then Gas as well. Gas is just really good for slams in general. In a more generic slam build, you'd probably be using Afflictions or something like that, but I'm using Exposure just to get my damage up as high as possible. And then I'm running Zeneric because I want to sort of make a pledge throughout this series that I'm not going to crush on Vazarin. If you want to take Vazarin, that's totally fine, but I think that this is a good opportunity for me to try and show people that you don't need it. Oh, I also forgot to go over this real quick. My Vauban has the Strength Shards to offset Overextended, and then a single cast speed. Burston's perks are Forceful Finality, Ready Retaliation, and Absolute Valor. And then Magistars are Edge of Justice, Seismic Slam, and Critical Parallel. Now, I do want to say that Magistar is super good against the boss itself, but I'm kind of going to just use it for ads and stuff in this fight. I want to show this off more in a different video. So, our companion is Worm. Worm is honestly just the GOAT when it comes to stuff like this, I think. We have Negate, which helps with, especially in this fight, when it comes to like slash procs from Hidden Horrors or from Unearth or something, this can help to block that. Reinforced Bond for the fire rate, Manifold Bond to get stuff off cooldown quickly. Coolant Leak is able to spread status effects from the equipped weapon, and I think as I kind of progress through this series, I'm probably going to mix this up a bit for like Tenacious Bond and stuff, just to show that being used as well. Guardian is a really good way to sort of catch yourself if you have your shields break. I believe Guardian has a 30-second cooldown, but Manifold Bond helps with that quite a bit. And then Calculated Redirection, just so we can keep Reinforced Bond active. And Primed Regen is just so if it dies, it comes back pretty quickly. And then Tazakor here is basically just to like soften up nearby Murmur units if I need it. Like I mentioned, if you would prefer, you can go over like Prime Laser Rifle and then take Tenacious Bond, because this clears the threshold. Just for the sake of argument, actually, we're going to go ahead and do that now. So yeah, now we've got this working here. I actually probably don't want heat on this, but I don't have a setup for this. It doesn't have heat, so we're just not going to bother with it. Yeah, now I've got like the improved crit damage from Tenacious Bond. These videos are a little bit ad hoc, I guess. So, you know, sometimes you make the decisions during. But yeah, so when it comes to all of the builds and whatnot, that should be everything. I'll see you in the boss fight. Okay, I think I'm going to start these videos at the point that I summon the Fragmented Tide, just to show that I can, you know, use them to build up some of my conditionals and whatnot. Obviously, my Deadhead, it'll be kind of tricky, but so I mentioned the thing earlier with the Blast proc buff. I just need to give my props to that, because goddamn, Photon Strike is a lot of fun nowadays. Even with a fairly low strength build, it can clear out groups of enemies pretty effectively, especially if you like prime beforehand, because if memory serves, it scales with enemy density as well as level. Yeah, like that. Great ability, great ability. I've always thought that it was like a really cool ability conceptually, that wasn't like bad, but it was a little bit tricky to work with. I don't know why that went over there. I'm burning through a lot of my ammo, but it's fine. The Fragmented One makes it extremely easy to recover your galvanized stacks and whatnot. Okay. This is going to be a little slow, I imagine. Ooh, that got really close to nullifying me. I do need to refresh my Vector Overdrive. So, Vauban's rework. I'm a little peeved that Overdrive got stuck to Vector Pad. Maybe that's weird of me, I don't really know. But, I find it to be really annoying. Maybe I'm alone on that, but the fact that I have to, like, physically displace myself kind of sucks. Ooh, that was a really bad time to come back to the ground, but fortunately I managed to catch myself. And yeah, I just decided to break the overguard of the Slinky over there, and then just get him stuck in my 4. I just don't really want to deal with him. Okay, this is an incredibly free attack. Yeah, you can also see that I'm up to like nearly 2,000 heat procs. This has been going very smooth so far. My test run for this did not go nearly this well. I probably could... Ooh, I went right into one of the hands. That was a bad idea. Okay. I'm going to, like I mentioned earlier, that you can really use Vauban's kit to your advantage for controlling the tide. That's kind of what I want to do now. Okay, we got an X Oblivion. Ooh, this is a really awkward spot for him to be in. I find the best strategy for dodging this is to move clockwise in rotation with the sparks. But if he, like, posts up in the corner, then it's kind of hard to slip past him, right? Ooh, ouch. Ooh, that was not good. Hold on, I need to get rid of this Severed Warden, because he's gonna cause problems. I should also probably mark the boss at this point. Okay, yeah, so it looks like he does clear status effects on Burrow. I wasn't sure if that was a Phase 2 behavior or not. I had never really, like, thought about it when I was recording the video, to be honest, like the main video. But then as I was doing this, like, testing for this series, I was like, you know, I should probably take note of whether or not that's the case. Okay, this ability is really weird when it comes to nullification. So I try to be careful about it. I think it's like the rings. Something in this attack nullifies. Again, this is a thing I had never noticed when working on the main video, but as I've been testing for this, I've noticed it can happen, but I don't entirely know. Ooh, that really chased me down. I don't know 100% what does it. Ooh, so I try to, like, be careful. Okay, we're getting unholy ground. I have gotten screwed over by this a lot in my test runs. Not in, like, the sense that I died, but in the sense that it caught me very off guard. That's a Shock Eximus, so I really want to get rid of him. Shock Eximus units are not that threatening at lower levels, but at, like, this level, you gotta respect them, let me put it that way. Their orbs will chase you down and rock your shit. So I gotta be very careful. Okay, I'm just gonna keep moving with the sparks. He's going for Burrow again. I can probably use this as an opportunity to clear these guys out. Yeah, there we go. Okay, this is going a little slow. I think the Fragmented Tide is kind of messing me up in terms of, like, actually staying focused on the boss. So try to just immediately bullet jump to cancel the momentum because I don't want to send myself into the boss. Also, maybe, I don't know if anyone is going to agree with me on this. I really like Lash of Limbs because I genuinely think it's just a super fun attack to dodge. All right, that is a wrap. I think that was about 5 minutes for the boss. I guess I'll have to see in my recording. Typically, it takes me about 10 minutes to get to this point. All right, we'll just go ahead and make our little jaunt to the extraction here. Oh, wait, hold on. Hold up. This is important. I hear one in here. We have to grab the... Yeah, would you look at that? Anyhow. So yeah, that's a completed run for the Accolade glyph for Vauban. Like I said, I don't think he's bad in this fight at all. Like, unlike... Like, the Guilty has Ember, Yanisvor has Limbo, and the tank has Sight as frames that I think are, like, disproportionately difficult compared to the others to do successfully. But Vauban is sort of the weakest one in this lineup, in my opinion. And he's not difficult like that, right? So, like I said, I think it's fairly straightforward, especially with his crowd control elements in Phase 2. He's fairly well equipped for this fight. So, let me know if this helped you out in the comments, and I'll see you next time.